Utilizing artificial intelligence to compose their latest film, Disney credited Allison Moore and Frozen director Jennifer Lee as the screenwriters for the project. However, upon viewing the movie, an unmistakable sense emerges that human involvement was minimal in both its financial and critical reception. This perception of soullessness and algorithmic design, while not an accusation, raises three key points contributing to the impression that Disney's Wish might have been written by AI. Firstly, examining the plot for context becomes essential. Disney, having reached its Centennial milestone in 2023, intended Wish to be a centennial celebration, paying homage to the company's artistic legacy. Even the title, a nod to the iconic theme song When You Wish Upon a Star, signifies this tribute. Unfortunately, instead of honoring the beloved classics that defined Disney, the film heavily relies on well-worn Disney tropes without recapturing their magic. The narrative revolves around wishes, with Chris Pine's character reigning over an island where everyone must surrender their greatest wish at the age of 18. However, many wishes are forgotten, prompting the protagonist to embark on a mission to restore them. While the premise seems solid on paper, the devil lies in the details. The movie claims to center around wishes, yet it fails to delve into the profound implications of these wishes for the people of Rosa. The protagonist, Asha, contends that taking away people's wishes strips them of the best parts of who they are. However, this does not appear to be a widespread issue. While one character exhibits signs of depression, the rest of the kingdom seems content and prosperous. If the film portrayed a lack of ambition or hope among the people in Rosa, Asha's concerns might resonate more authentically. The world introduced at the movie's outset does not seem to necessitate significant change, and even Asha's grandfather, whose wish sets the central conflict in motion, appears content without it. In essence, Disney's Wish conveys the impression that an algorithmic approach guided its creation, sidelining the nuanced touch of human storytelling. On the other hand, Asha never thought that there was anything missing from him until the end of Act 1. In a film like Tarzan, the storyline revolves around family and Tarzan's need to prove himself. This makes sense because Kerchuk initially sees Tarzan as an unworthy outsider, stating, "Look at him. He will never be one of us." That's something that clearly needs to change. When Cook finally accepts Tarzan as a worthy son, things are in a better state than when the film began, with Cook saying, "Forgive me for not understanding that you have always been one of us, my son." However, the state of the world in Wish is so poorly established that the audience doesn't really see a problem. This means there's little to no payoff when the story supposedly resolves. Plot can only become poetry when all its elements flow together and enhance one another, but Wish's concept and narrative feel like they were generated based on a list of buzzwords in a corporate office. Speaking of characters, Disney characters, both in terms of their design and personality, are usually fantastic. However, the characters in Wish are some of the most generic seen in quite some time. It seems like they threw tropes and traits from better characters into a blender and mixed them up into the narrative equivalent of Chicken McNuggets. Take, for example, Asha. On the surface, she has the determination of Moana, the moxie of Rapunzel, and the quirkiness of Anna. But in the actual narrative, these traits feel incredibly artificial because they don't really connect to her story in a meaningful way. The closest thing she has to a character arc is going from loving Magnifico to defying him, but this doesn't require any character growth on her part. The previously mentioned traits aren't the basis for character flaws or strengths, but rather superfluous details meant to remind audiences of better executed characters from previous films. Rapunzel's naive innocence is directly related to being locked in a tower her whole life, and her adventurous spirit is what motivates her to finally leave. Anna is, for lack of a better word, adorable because she hasn't had anyone to socialize with, which is why she's so quick to trust someone like Hans, setting the story in motion. The big issue for Asha is that her motivations are so vague and therefore weak. What little we do understand about Asha's motivations doesn't even remain consistent throughout the film. At the end of Act 1, it seems like she thinks that everyone in Rosa should have their wishes returned to them. but when she breaks into Magnifico's vault just before the midpoint, she only seems interested in her mother and grandfather's wishes. Suddenly, she's not trying to better her community, just her family situation. To be clear, these inconsistencies contribute to the overall weakness of the character arcs in the film. The actress is not to blame for these issues, but Disney did her a disservice by assigning her the role of a character merely functioning as a pawn to propel the plot forward. Similarly, this movie disappointingly squanders the talents of Chris Pine, who portrays King Magnifico. The character was intended to mark the return of the classic Disney villain archetype, a trope Disney hadn't explored since characters like Dr. Facilier and Mother Gothel. Fans were eager to move away from the twist villain trope and anticipated seeing an actor of Pine's caliber portraying a charismatic and genuinely threatening antagonist. However, it appears that the writers, or perhaps an algorithm, adopted the worst aspects from both classic and twist villains, resulting in an antagonist who lacks charisma and proper establishment. King Magnifico begins as a rational but self-centered monarch, only to rapidly devolve into a laughably unhinged maniac without adequate explanation. Similar to Asha, he feels like an archetype mechanically inserted into a formulaic story with minimal human oversight. His entire personality undergoes abrupt changes solely to serve the narrative's needs and fulfill audience expectations of a villain. The frustration intensifies because the script initially attempts to provide depth to the king's character. It is explained that he takes people's wishes because he sees holding onto unattainable dreams as a burden, and he wants to spare his people from suffering. People willingly give their wishes to him, and he, in turn, helps them forget their worries. This intriguing line of thinking is, unfortunately, abandoned as soon as the plot unfolds, doing a disservice to both the character and the stakes of the film. Magnifico had the potential to unlock a deeper message within the film, but reducing him to a one-dimensional antagonist undermines the plot's themes and actions, resulting in a movie that falls flat in delivering a meaningful and impactful narrative. The side characters, such as Valentino the Goat, voiced by Alan Tudyk, seem as if they were written by ChatGPT. Valentino's presence is primarily for making jokes, and his humor feels robotic without serving any other purpose in the narrative. In contrast, considering Mulan, even if you remove the comedy from Eddie Murphy's Mushu, he plays a crucial role in the script. Mushu serves as a guide and confidant for the main character, guiding her in the right direction and reminding her of what's at stake. Additionally, he undergoes a significant character arc. In Wish, while a little goat with a deep voice may be cute, the character lacks depth that would make the audience genuinely care about him. Discussing the supporting cast, Wish follows a trend noticed in modern Disney media, where the studio seems more comfortable depicting women of color than men from the same backgrounds. This lack of consistency is evident in the ensemble cast, where female characters showcase diversity, but male characters, including Asha's grandfather, remain predominantly white. This disparity in diversity among male and female characters affects the film's overall representation. Regarding exposition, the movie faces a significant issue with its writing. It heavily relies on dialogue to communicate ideas and information, neglecting the fundamental filmmaking concept of show, don't tell. Wish's exposition is so prominent that critical details about characters, such as Asha's father and his death, are revealed through dialogue rather than shown in actual scenes. This approach undermines the potential for visual storytelling in an animated medium. Whether or not ChatGPT was involved in writing this movie, it appears to lack human artistry in the writing process. The issues seen in Wish showcase the challenges modern Disney faces, as acknowledged by Bob Iger himself. The focus on quantity over quality is apparent, and the film ultimately feels like content produced by artificial intelligence, lacking the depth and artistry expected from a Disney movie. In essence, Wish was intended to serve as a centennial celebration for Disney, commemorating its 100 years as a company in 2023. However, instead of paying homage to the beloved classics that shaped Disney's identity, The film falls into the trap of relying on overused Disney tropes without recapturing the magic of its predecessors. The plot revolves around wishes, with Chris Pine's character, King Magnifico, ruling over an island where everyone must give up their greatest wish at the age of 18. The film's protagonist, Asha, challenges this system, believing that taking away people's wishes strips them of their essence. However, the movie fails to explore the deeper implications of this concept for the people of Rosa, the kingdom in which the story is set. The world introduced at the beginning of the movie doesn't convincingly convey a need for change. While Asha expresses concerns about the loss of ambition or hope due to the wish-taking ritual, the overall portrayal of Rosa suggests a thriving and content community. Asha's motivations lack clarity and consistency, and her character arc lacks genuine growth, diminishing the impact of her journey. Additionally, Wish suffers from a significant writing flaw, relying excessively on dialogue for exposition. Critical details about characters, such as Asha's father's death, are conveyed through dialogue rather than being visually depicted in scenes. This neglect of visual storytelling undermines the potential impact of the narrative. Whether or not artificial intelligence played a role in the creation of Wish, the film ultimately reflects the current challenges faced by Disney. The emphasis on quantity over quality, as acknowledged by former Disney CEO Bob Iger, is evident in this production. In the end, Wish leaves audiences with a sense that it falls short of the artistic standards expected from a Disney Centennial celebration. The film, in its reliance on familiar tropes, lackluster characters, and dialogue-heavy exposition, feels more like content generated by an algorithm than a true Disney masterpiece. The fundamental issue with Wish lies in its failure to capture the essence of classic Disney storytelling. The film's characters, particularly Asha, lack the depth and relatability that have defined Disney protagonists in the past. Instead of building on the strengths of iconic characters like Moana, Rapunzel, or Anna, Asha comes across as a collection of traits without a meaningful connection to the story. The narrative structure also falls victim to predictable and formulaic elements, diminishing the potential impact of the plot. The introduction of wishes as a central theme promises exploration into the characters' desires and motivations. However, this potential is squandered as the film opts for a linear and straightforward approach, missing the opportunity to delve into the complexities of the characters' wishes. The supporting cast, including the side characters and the antagonist, King Magnifico, suffer from inconsistent writing. Magnifico's initial depth is discarded in favor of a generic and unhinged villain archetype, robbing the film of the depth and nuance that could have elevated it beyond a mere retread of familiar Disney tropes. Furthermore, the film's attempts at humor, exemplified by Valentino the Goat, come off as forced and robotic. Unlike memorable supporting characters in Disney classics, Valentino serves little purpose beyond providing occasional comedic relief, lacking the depth and relevance that would make audiences genuinely care about his presence in the story. The issue of representation in the film, specifically the lack of diversity among male characters, is a missed opportunity for Disney to align its storytelling with the values of inclusivity and representation. While efforts have been made to diversify female characters, the male characters, including Asha's grandfather, failed to reflect the same level of diversity. The writing's heavy reliance on dialogue for exposition is a departure from the visual storytelling excellence that defines Disney's best works. Critical information about characters and their backgrounds is narrated rather than being seamlessly integrated into the narrative through actions and scenes. This reliance on dialogue contributes to a lack of emotional resonance and engagement with the characters. In conclusion, Wish exemplifies the challenges faced by Disney in maintaining the quality and originality that defined its earlier masterpieces. Whether or not artificial intelligence played a role in the film's creation, the end result feels like a missed opportunity to celebrate Disney's rich history with a thoughtful and innovative narrative. As the film relies on outdated tropes, uninspired characters, and dialogue-heavy exposition, it falls short of the standards expected from a Disney Centennial celebration. Whether the issues stem from an overemphasis on quantity over quality or an unfortunate departure from the collaborative artistry that defined Disney's legacy, Wish ultimately leaves audiences yearning for the enchantment and authenticity that characterize the studio's most beloved tales. As Disney moves forward, it must find a delicate balance between honoring its storied past and forging new paths to captivate audiences for generations to come.